We're standing on the edge of something big, and we're gonna make some changes. We're gonna make some changes.
Hi, I'm pleased to announce something very special to me, a new subscription-based service through NextAct Advisors that allows members exclusive access to personal industry insights and bespoke corporate governance knowledge. This comes in the form of blogs, personal book recommendations, and early access to the Founders Sandbox podcast episodes before they release to the public. If you want more white glove information on building your startup with information like what was in today's episode, sign up at the link in the show notes to enjoy being a special member of NextAct Advisors. As a thank you to Founders Sandbox listeners, you can use code SANDBOX25 at checkout to enjoy 25% off your membership costs. Thank you. Welcome back to the Founders Sandbox. I am Brenda McCabe, your host. This is a monthly podcast in which I reach entrepreneurs, business owners, and I have as my guest entrepreneurs and business owners, professional service providers, and corporate board directors who bring their own stories about building resilient, purpose-driven, and sustainable businesses with great corporate governance. I want to assist entrepreneurs and entrepreneurs in building those scalable, well-governed, and resilient businesses. And by bringing my guests to the podcast, they too want to use the power of the enterprise, small, medium, and large, to create change for a better world. We're going to tell stories in this podcast today. And my guest is Jane Zhang. She's CEO of Remmie, and she's joining us here from the state of Washington. Jane and I go back almost, 4 or 5 years now. Jane was at the UCLA MedTech competition. She had just founded Remmie in 2018 and then actually put some bones around it, and financing into 2020 was actually seeking external investment, dilutive type. And I couldn't help but remember Jane's origin story of why she started Remmie. And we're going to start with that. So Jane, I would love for you to walk down memory lane with me and go back to when we met in the campus at the UCLA MedTech. And what was your origin story?
Yeah, Brenda, I really appreciate your this opportunity, and thank you for the great intro. It was unforgettable, right? Why I every day I'm reminded of why I'm on this mission, because my own son, who was a preschooler back then, had recurring ear, nose, and throat issues, especially ear infections. It was basically nonstop. A lot of the weekends, my colleagues would ask me, "What are you doing on the weekend?" I'd be like, "My son is having a fever. I'm taking next week off." So it happened 4 times. In the first year, he went to childcare, and one of the times he had a high fever. We went to the ER. It took us 4 hours sitting there, nonstop with his, crying and screaming. And the other times we were referred to an ENT specialist who was about to put in ear tubes in his ears. And other times we were misdiagnosed because he had ear, nose, and hands and mouth disease, where we were given antibiotics. I give him 10 days and he's still spiking a fever. It keeps on coming back. And the doctor said, it was a moment of revelation where this physician, my pediatrician, told me, come take a look by yourself. I was like, why? And he said the throat, or the back of his throat, was all white blisters. So this was not an ear infection. Who gave you antibiotics? That was the question he asked me. He said, you should be able to look by yourself. And why weren't you doing that? I was like, what, really? I'm a biomedical engineer by training, by the way. Right. Especially in low resource setting diagnostics, or like basically home diagnostic kits. he asked me, why aren't you looking by yourself? I was like, what am I supposed to look? And with what? So that's where this whole idea of building something for the people at home to be able to examine, share, and in the future getting assistance in identifying ENT diseases became very important to me.
Wow. So you had at that time um, been working for a large pharmaceutical company. You, as you said, you are a biomedical engineer by training, um, and you just completed your executive MBA, I think at UCLA. So what made you make the jump? One thing is going to the emergency room with your child time and time again. You know, you talked about your aha moment and how can I, in a low resource, right, and at home, be able to actually diagnose and actually treat my child. What what happened that made you want to actually become an entrepreneur, Jane? One thing is working on the research side, but
Mhm.
becoming an entrepreneur, what made you do that?
It was very it was it was like everything kind of lined up in a
Yes.
way. And it's just my background, I was an engineer by training. um, I worked as a scientist, like in all the way up to postdoctoral level research. And then I took a turn into getting more into product development, business development, and commercial operations, because I thought that was really going to help me broaden my vision of the my view of
Mhm.
how things work. I'm basically a curiosity driven person. And at that point where I was working in a big corporate, in a pharmaceutical company, I was sort of getting more experience in the commercial side of things. I figured I had two choices, probably one to actually three choices I was considering, right? Like one is to go back to research and become a faculty member. In fact, I did. That was kind of my way of reorienting my whole career path. The other one was going to become an investor. The third was to fund my own company and just go on this path of building things. Um, I I thought this issue of my child's problem just really was hitting it home, that this is, and because it's after I talked to many people, I was not alone. I'm not the only person who's going through this. Everyone I talked to said, oh my gosh, that was me. I was like, this is a big deal. It not only impacts your child's health, it impacts your productivity at the prime time of your life when you just had the child. And it was just like really hitting home. I had to do this after a couple of years of hiatus, in academics, in academia, as a faculty member of engineering in University of Washington. After completing my MBA, in the meantime, I decided being a builder, an entrepreneur is the calling for
Is the
me.
path is the path you
Yeah.
chose. Amazing. Talk to me about the number of ENT cases that you are addressing with Remmie today. Talk to me about
Yeah.
the size of the market.
The I guess a striking number was 70 million in the US, both adults and children
Yearly, right? And it's
a
recurring.
year. Yeah, suffering from some ENT diseases. And this is not just specialty disease that I'm talking about. It's every day, like anything that you have when you have a sore throat, a painful nose, or ear infection, or cold and flu, it impacts these organs. The first line organs being impacted are your ENT. But it doesn't stop there, right? For children, it is very highly occurring. Like 80, if you look at the number of children who go see ENT ear infections alone is about 24 million a year. That's 80% of any children before the age of 8 or 3. They've already had one ear infection, not to mention 30% have more than 3 a year. And adults, when you're thinking about, sinusitis, sore throat, strep throat, how all these impact, the overall population quite a bit.
So what is the solution that Remmie provides? You're going to walk us through kind of it's AI-powered ENT, so ear, nose, and throat health platform. It has many
Mhm.
components.
Yeah.
What's the patient experience today that you're attacking, and how is it going to look in the future? Walk us through the product, please.
Yeah. I love that way of thinking, and thinking as a patient or a user of anything that we are providing. So you already kind of heard my journey of nonstop sort of rotation in like a spinning wheel among pediatrics office, urgent care, ENT's office, and ER, right? And then all over again for another episode if it's recurring or chronic. The experience that we're trying to provide is along the line of how the disease progresses and how physicians examine. Like if you can kind of build a quadrant or like a progression lifetime or along that line. What I mean is when you first have a pain or some sort of discomfort, you would want to, a doctor, when they examine you, they would check, they would look with right now they look with an otoscope, which is a glorified flashlight plus magnifier, obviously very, very high fidelity. That's the first step. They look, they examine. And then the second thing they do is, obviously you have to be in person first with the physician, right? So there's no sharing per se, which we're trying to build towards is you can look, if a doctor is using an otoscope, why can't the patient be taught how to use it? It's very similar to a thermometer in a way, except it's a camera. So, if a physician is looking with their eye, we can make it digitized as a camera for patients to use at home. And if you have to be in person today, you should be able to transmit this, whatever you're looking at or collecting over the internet in terms of sharing. And then the third step of the whole diagnosis journey is basically analyze, or the physician kind of asks you how you feel. They aggregate a lot of information about you, who you are, what you're going through, and your physical presentation of the symptoms. That should also be partly supported by AI. So that's kind of what I'm working towards is it's like a million doctors supporting every single physician, every one doctor being supported by a million in terms of the insights that's used to go into their diagnosis. And did I mention that the misdiagnosed rate is about 40% on any day? Misdiagnosis meaning either they think you're prescribed antibiotics where you should not have been, or you're referred to a specialist where you should not have been, or you went to the ER, because you did not receive the care in time. I guess that's a broader sense of misdiagnosis, which means you missed the opportunity for diagnosis in the proper setting. So, but that's very prevalent in terms of misdiagnosis. So we like to support anyone who's first examining the condition with AI tools, being a patient or a primary care physician.
All right. Before we get into the AI question that I have for you, talk to me about some of the communities that can benefit from the use of an AI-powered ENT device.
Yeah. The first thing that comes to my mind is home users, any general layperson at home who may not have the resources to see a physician in person.
Okay.
It could be someone who's a lack of access in a way that they are in a remote area, lack of resources to pay for healthcare, or even lack of time. Someone who is working, who has job, but just doesn't have the time to see a doctor. So I would think underserved communities, population who are at lack of resources such as time, money, or driving. Driving is a hassle for a lot of families, and just anywhere at home. Anyone who is even I was talking to a bunch of undergrads, college students are like, we're so used to just sitting on our couch and see a doctor if that's possible. Yeah.
And that was really the key moment when I was sitting and as a judge. The first time I actually was exposed to you, Jane, met you and heard about Remmie. It was the possibility that digital health, right? I'm not having to go into a doctor's office, and
Hmm.
the digital health to use preventatively, right? To prevent
Yeah.
diseases to progress. I
Yeah.
think, and then, AI is just an added layer on top. So that truly was a moment when I thought everybody, well, at least there's 70 million cases a year of ear, nose, and throat, what this platform may offer for other disease areas where we don't have necessarily to go into the doctor's office. So it was fascinating. That's what brought us into this relationship. So talk to me about, we've talked about the platform, where you're going, how it's offered. What has been your founder experience? All right, you decided, you took a hiatus, you went back to the academic world, you really wanted to become an entrepreneur, started the company. It was you won a competition out of UCLA, I think business case. That's about the time I met you, right? Talk to me about how the journey has been in terms of resources, the resources that you have received, non-dilutive funding. Where are
Hmm.
you on that path, and how many healthcare systems are currently either testing or looking into the use of Remmie? That's a loaded question, so talk to me about the journey of financing and where
Yeah.
the product is being used today.
Absolutely. The journey is long and very is full of support. Like that's a very upfront thing. Support from my very early days, where my MBA classmates kind of joined force on this project. As in its infancy, the UCLA, which venture accelerator, which was my first founder. Basically, we came out of the incubator. Equipped to talk to the world about our business case, and we got $33,000 overnight from that business plan competition, and the early UCLA founders who just showing overwhelming support. And in fact, we sold our first 25 units of our this digital otoscope in the early days before we graduated, and gotten our first 100K of investor check before we graduated. So that was when we had to fund the company, because we need to find a place to park the money as students part-time. So this was all full-time working professionals, part-time on the weekends going to MBA. And then the past just went really interesting because of the pandemic. Yes. There was an overwhelming uptake of virtual care, telehealth services, institutions who are looking at this new modality of care. And all of a sudden, there were like 800 telehealth companies in the US at some point. And they were all of our potential customers. We started cold calling them, and we're getting quite a bit of feedback. In fact, many of them were working today. We are working with Rocket Doctor, for example. They've taken over 500,000 calls in the past couple of years in terms of virtual care services. They have sites at pharmacies and enabled stations of remote care for people who are not accessing an office in person. We are working with 5 school districts in 5 different states, and these are school districts which leverage Remmie for all of their nursing rooms, and introducing it to their students and parents. And we are working on, so we got very strong non-dilutive funding. Actually, early days, we had seed funding from Plug and Play. We have seed funding from United Healthcare Accelerator, powered by Techstars. We had in-kind support from CTIP, which is Consortium for Technology and Innovation in Pediatrics, which is a large hospital innovation consortia of, I would say that's growing, like 13 at least children's hospitals in the West and Midwest. They are providing enormous support, including clinical collaborations, partnerships, granting services, regulatory guardrail. They're FDA funded. So now we're working with them in terms of a clinical study site in Lurie Children's in Chicago, which is one of our primary sites of testing out not only Remmie otoscopes, but Remmie AI, funded by the NIH, which is National Institute of Health, under the Small Business Innovation and Research Grant at $3.5 million so far. So overall, there was overwhelming support also from my state. I'm from Washington. So the Life Science Institute of Washington also kind of invested. And last but not least, I have to mention TIE, which is an angel funding investor group that has given us enormous support in terms of networking, in terms of fine-tuning the business plans, mentorship sessions. It just goes on, right? Like there are a few other investors that we've been working with, and overall we've raised about 4.75 million in non-dilutive funding, and then about another $1 million in dilutive. So this has gone into a clinical study phase where we're looking at success outcomes in terms of technology readiness, validation of performance of AI, clearance through FDA as a class 2 device in a couple of years, and then commercially being able to facilitate telehealth services already, in addition to allowing the patients to see and examine. We're enabling physicians to remotely examine and prescribe, and in the future, assisting both the physician and the patients in terms of prescription and receiving the accurate diagnosis. I'm looking at hitting the all, I guess, purpose of healthcare, or the goals of healthcare today. The 5 aims, I believe, at least, cutting costs, improving quality, increasing access. Yeah, all of that.
Amazing. And as of today, so you've raised about 4.75 non-dilutive. You're no longer raising dilutive funding until you get through the clinical trials. When will that be happening, Jane?
The study with Children's Hospital, Lurie Children's, is happening now, actually. So it's underway. Yes. And we are looking at in a year that we will have some tangible, really good results in terms of both the patient satisfaction, physicians' demand, and performance of the technology.
And what is the desired outcome? Because I got really excited too, because this will be maybe not the first, but one of the earliest FDA-approved Class 2 devices jointly with AI, correct?
Yes, that's a very hot topic right now in terms of the use of AI, the governance of AI, the who benefits from it and who pays for it, right? Ultimately, the AI that we are developing would be sort of augmenting the physician's decision making. In the meantime, directly benefiting the patients because they can potentially receive pre-screening alerts and results faster and earlier and before they go, or even while they're waiting for the physician's appointments. So I would say that the outcome, the first and foremost, is satisfaction of the patient and the physicians. We would like to work alongside with, really key influencer in the medical field, medically validating the performance and understanding the bias of the data. What would it be if we bias it one way or the other in terms of the algorithm development, right? Whether or not we're collecting comprehensive population-based data. Have we looked at cases of one way or the other, like in general, understanding the algorithm development and the AI readout. I think there's a lot of misunderstanding about AI these days, right? People generalize it to be generative, right. But AI has been a concept that is, it was a different name back then. It was data analysis, it was imaging analysis, it was big data. For a while, the algorithm is evolving, the capability is evolving. I guess one investor was asking me, how do you handle data hallucination or AI hallucination, which basically means the AI is starting to give out fake results based on ungrounded facts or cheating or lying to you. And there's also another different kind of AI, which was data-driven or validated. It won't tell you anything that you don't tell it to. It's kind of limited or confined to a set of outcomes. For us, it is the former at this point. It's less generative. We understand the ins and outs of the data that's going in, and we know why it's spinning out the results one way or the other on the outcome, on the output side. I would say generative is got a lot of potential, but within healthcare, we just need to catch up a lot faster for it to be widely applicable.
Currently, is it fair to say that Remmie does have the largest database of imaging within ENT?
We are one of the top in the world. The data size, as the use case grows, as the user base grows, would be growing. The data are aggregating and being applicable to algorithm training in an aggregation basis or de-identified, anonymized. It's the interesting part about the platform we're building is the users can benefit, and they know they benefit early, rather than just being benefiting from AI telling them what to do or assisting them. They're benefiting from non-AI capabilities of the technology, facilitating their visits, shortening their distance from their pain to a prescription, for example, or diagnosis already, early on. So we sort of de-risk the path to AI, and AI becomes more of a later phase, but it is definitely going to augment and assist the human journey, all in all.
Excellent. And so, while sticking with the actual platform, and one of the third elements that I was particularly interested in when we did invest from the Thai Fund was the the shortage of primary care physicians, and specifically even pediatricians in the United States at this time. Talk to me a bit about how, as the platform of Remmie builds out, will this enable doctors? Will it substitute doctors? How will this address this? Actually, it's tsunami that is now on us of the shortage of doctors in such a common disease area, right?
Yeah. I definitely think that it is a tsunami coming at us. Just from my experience of having to book out, my wild child checkup is like 4 months out. I was like, by the time I get my son's appointment for his 11 years old checkup, he's 12. Yeah. So just to give you an idea. And then I got a letter in the mail saying that I'm quitting. My physician is quitting. This is real life, right? So I basically think that the AI will be enabling the physicians to free up their time, from some non-acute or issues that so in the meantime, providing the quality of care that patients need, not to sacrifice the quality, to free up their time and become more efficient in a way. Especially, I can think about ER avoidance, right, as a big use case for Remmie, and referral pre-screening, right, specialty referral pre-screening. Both of those, are going to free up quite a bit of our healthcare resources in terms of leaving them for those acute cases and really needing, attention of the physicians. ER avoidance, basically you go, before you go to the ER, while you're waiting in the ER, you can perform a test or some sort of a visit with Remmie, using the Remmie technology. And specialties pre-screening could be like while you're waiting for the specialist appointment, which might be 3-4 months out, you can get the insights that you need already. So both use cases, I think, will free up quite a bit of our time, both from pediatricians, nurses, mid-level providers, and specialists, ED doctors and specialists.
Oh, Remmie. Can you, for my listeners, talk about where they can find Remmie today? Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we are we're on Amazon. If you search Remmie, our website remmiehouse.com. We have very convenient e-commerce, shipping and handling protocols. So you should be able to, order on Friday, receive on Monday, for example, or even faster than that. And then we are at your clinic. We may be at your clinic, maybe at your school district. We are working with a few of these physicians' clinics. Their logos are on our website. If you're one of the patients of the clinics, you will get these at a discount, easily accessible rate. And if you visit us at the exhibits, in terms of commercial and marketing exposures, we are going to be at Medica in Germany. Mm-hmm. That is next week, November 11th to 14th in Düsseldorf in Germany. We are part of the Washington State Pavilion to exhibit there. And then we are publishing, academically, we are collaborating with University of Southern California, USC, in the speech hearing and language pathologist community, especially in collaboration with USC. We are publishing a poster there that's going to be December 5 to 7th in Seattle, in Washington.
Mm-hmm. Excellent. Let's switch to the Founders Sandbox. I'm passionate about working with company owners on their purpose, their scalability, and the resilience. And I have a founder here in the Sandbox with me today. You're into your sixth year of being a CEO. Tell me, what does resilience mean to you, Jane?
Oh my gosh, there are so many places you just have to hold on to. Hold on to the idea. I think first and foremost, it's something that you believe. There's some belief that this is there, like it's worth your time, it's worth the effort, it's worth keep going, right? So if you give up, it's probably you don't believe in it enough, right? At some point, because of all the failures and problems that comes up. Yeah, don't get me started. And then the belief is there, right? I think this is the future, the calling. It's historically inevitable, right? If it's Remmie or someone else, it should be done, right? So that's my belief, and it's driven me every day when I wake up. And then when I have, when I think about resilience, I also think about when I'm fundraising, talking to investors, I get 99% no's, right? And then 1% yes. But does that mean that I'm not a good company, a good founder? No, it just means we're not a good fit, right? Like investors have their own thesis, their goals to fill, their speed, stage of company, check sizes, everything has to meet perfectly. And even, personality wise, those investors are going to be with you for a while. Yes. You trust each other. So that's fundraising, and then just keep going at it. And product wise, people say no to my product oftentimes for various reasons. Customers are always right? Again, does that mean that I'm not a good product or services? No. The more I talk to them, the more no's I get, the more yes I will get as well. So again, that's sort of on the market research or understanding the general target, like as you're looking for the product market fit, again, the keyword here is fit. Yes. And then the third piece is just interpersonal, like people oftentimes, like or dislike each other for a reason. And there's nothing wrong with, knowing more, getting more. So I have a very big mentor community. I reach out to them every time I need an answer, and they're just all willing to help. That really helps with the mentality, the resilience as well. I know I'm being supported. I know people love me, or like my products are being loved, my services are needed, and my mentors really support me. So that's what really helps with the positivity. Yeah.
Excellent. Thank you for those 4 nuggets and your own words about what resilience means to you. Thank you for talking about your product and believing in the future of telehealth, with Remmie or not. It's very humble, very humble. And I loved, so the key word is fit, right? Fit with your investors, fit with your customers, what they're wanting, fit with the belief. Take that to the next question, fit or purpose-driven. Are you fit for purpose? What is purpose-driven enterprise? All right. So this goes beyond the resilience to the enterprise. Purpose-driven, what's that mean to you?
I think I started the journey caring about sort of mental health of women, that's like, besides children's health,
Yes.
right? So, and I spent my whole journey, whole research doing underserved community health diagnostics, right? So I've been working on, the worst diseases you can think about: HIV, tuberculosis, these pathogens, right? I was kind of in a class 3 biolab, working while I was pregnant, right, on tuberculosis. So, you name it, right? Like any sort of crazy things that happen to people, I have really strong sort of desire to help them or address it. It's also something that's probably rooted in my family. Like I don't talk about that a whole lot, but my dad came out of sort of this pure poverty, right? Like my grandpa was a shepherd, and he sort of, I guess, long story short, my dad was also kind of would be a beneficiary of Remmie. He had a perforated eardrum because he listened to English radios too much before he came to UK for study. As a first generation college student from his family. So nowadays he still has a deaf ear, right? Like perforated eardrum. So I'm still thinking, is there something that I can do for him? But overall, I felt just to echo where I started in the beginning, as a woman in the prime years of, career, where I wanted to be, I was earning good money. I was having a good corporate job. I was caring for my child, which really kind of hampered my productivity at work. I think that's kind of an issue that nobody really talks about, because everybody wants top performers, like you need to be working when your child is sick or something like that. But, overall, it's kind of an issue that's dear and near to my heart as women in children's health, especially for underserved communities.
Thank you. Thank you, Jane. Wow. Scalable growth. Take that resilience plus your purposefulness and scale it. Is it truly what the platform will become? Scalable. What does scalable mean to you? Don't
Yeah.
your mouth.
I think it does really mean a whole lot about how help the physicians in a way. I will scale really well if I can bring benefits to ease their work, ease their stress at work. There are patients coming in, they're getting text messages from the patient, hey, what's going on with me if you see this image? I was like, that's crazy. Like, how do you respond to that, right? Like, in a way that polite and shows that you're a human, you care. But if you get 300 of those a day, how do you do that, right? And then they say, oh, they send them through my charts, right? And again, that's losing, or like the patient just waiting and how do you address this mismatch of having physicians providing care at top quality and efficiency while being a human, right? Like to the patients, and then the patients are satisfied and getting the needs met. I'm trying to make my story heard or resonating with physicians, that they can be. Just to give you an example, right? A physician mentioned that 50% of this is a specialist who said 50% of the patients who came to me should not have been in my office because I wanted to help those who they need me for a procedure most of the time. If they come to me for diagnostics confirmation, I could have done that with their information gathered in front of me already, right, before they come. So that's kind of the point. And it's almost like whenever they're open or free, aggregating physicians' time across all these physicians who have time, whenever they have time to care for patients aggregated across all these issues, whenever they have an issue, we're trying to build sort of a bridge where the aggregation would really help address the problem of mismatch of asynchronous visits or waiting and not getting the answers. I don't know if that's too abstract.
No, I get it. And you know what? Kind of along the lines of your purpose, right? Caring about mental health for mothers. You also, by the adoption of Remmie Health in settings, right, with the patients using it from home or being screened early on, you're clearly affecting the mental health of our caregivers, our physicians. And we do know that tsunami's here. There's a high level of attrition. Doctors actually just quitting. And if through tech-enabled or AI-powered intelligent aggregation of data informs the decisions to reduce number of visits or have them more productive while in the setting, the clinical setting, can move the needle, so be it. So thank you, Jane. This has been absolutely an amazing interview. I have one last question. Did you have fun in the sandbox today?
Yes, absolutely, Brenda. Really, really appreciate the opportunity. It's wonderful to every time I talk to you, it's wonderful, but especially interesting when we're like in this setting and podcasting to a greater audience, and really appreciate what you do for the community.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah. So to my listeners, if you like this episode with Jane Zhang, CEO of Remmie, where we really talked about resilience and scalable and purpose-driven life story, as well as the origin story, as well as the product, Remmie, sign up for the monthly release where founders and business owners, corporate directors, and professional service providers provide their own stories on how to build with strong governance a resilient, scalable, and purpose-driven company to make profits for good. Sign up for this month. Thank you for joining us.